Echelon is brought to you by Deloitte. For innovative thinking and thorough strategic planning, turn to Deloitte. Today is September the 19th, 2012, and this week on Upper Echelon, we speak to the retired Executive Director of construction giant Marion Roberts, and that's Mr. Millard Arnold. He's also a lawyer, businessman, former diplomat, and Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Human Rights and Humanitarian Affairs during the Carter administration. Now, Millard, you began your career in public relations at the Howard University.
Yes, I did. I would hardly have thought that was the beginning of my career, but it was actually a very funny story, because what had happened was that I had been in the military, and I had been posted in Vietnam and Thailand, and we played American football there. And we had the absolute best football team in the country of Thailand. We were playing all the other military bases. And we never got any coverage in the newspapers, the base newspaper. And I complained about it at one point, and they said, well, we can't cover you because we don't have anyone who can cover the story. And I said, well, I'll write the stories. And so we'd play the football games, and I'd write the stories up, and they were published in the newspapers, and everyone enjoyed them. And so as I was getting out of the military, the question was, what was I going to do next? And I thought, well, this seems like a lot of fun. I think I'll go into public relations. And I was going back to Howard University because my youngest brother was there, and I had been a terrible student, so I didn't think I was going to do particularly well at school. And I went to the Department of Public Relations at Howard and said, I'm interested in studying this when I come here as a student. What do I need to take? What courses should I take? And the director at the time took a look at my background and said, well, I'll tell you what, if you come here, you can work in my office, and you can take courses and learn the art of public relations from within. And I came on board as the sports information director of Howard, as an assistant sports information director. And the director, sports information director, was subsequently fired. And so there I was as a student as the acting sports information director, and within a year I was appointed the sports information director for Howard University. I was still a student, and I was running our sports information department. And that led to a whole range of things, including eventually going to work for the Washington Post newspaper.
And then I mentioned the Steve Biko Foundation. You're also the author of 2 books on Steve Biko, who died in police detention in the 70s during those horrible apartheid years. How did that come about?
At the time, I was in the States. I was running a project called the Southern Africa Project of the Lawyers Committee, and we provided legal assistance and to lawyers in South Africa who were using the legal systems as a way of addressing apartheid. And one of the cases that I had to work on was the Sasso BPC trial at the time. It was Sats Cooper and 8 others. And in that trial, Steve Biko appeared as the witness on behalf of the defense. And prior to that, I had been asked, I got a call from the lawyers here in South Africa, a man by the name of Shun Chetty, who's now passed away. And he said, look, I think there's somebody you should talk to. And he put me on the phone, and it was Steve Biko. I'd never met him. I had no idea really much about him at that stage. We had, to this day, I wish I could remember what it was that we spoke about. My sense was it was a fairly nondescript conversation. How are you? Fine. What's happening? It was very brief. And then subsequently, not very long thereafter, he was killed. And, of course, in South Africa, it was a huge concern, but no one in the outside world had any idea of why this was important. And I had in my possession documents that had been given to me by Gail Gerhardt, a historian, who had provided me with information on the Black Consciousness movement. And I took that information to Random House and said, look, I've got basically 3 books here for you. One would be quotations of Steve Biko. The other would be a collection of his writings, and the third would be the trial transcript of the SABC of the South African Students Organization SASO BBC trial. And Bob Bernstein, the editor at the time, said, "Well, look, I don't like doing collections of writings because if we've missed one, then you don't have the collection. And the quotations of Steve are great, but let's do the trial transcript." So I did the trial transcript, and I was concerned that there was nothing in England, so I gave the manuscripts that I had to the Defence and Aid Fund in the UK, and they published that book as I Write What I Like. And then 10 years later, I was asked if I would do something on the anniversary of Steve Biko, and we published the smallest book, which was called Steve Biko, No Fears Expressed, which was a collection of his writings. And I think the wonderful thing about that, two things, is that I came in to South Africa on behalf of the American Bar Association, and the Minister of Justice at that time couldn't wait to meet me to hand me a banning order banning the book. And the second thing I remember about it was that students told me that they would wear the book around their neck on a chain and would quote from Steve Biko. And so that's the background and history of that. And I've been very privileged, again, to be able to make a small difference.
It's not often that I get to speak to someone who acted alongside icons like Will Smith and John Voight. You seem to be a man of many talents.
I've just been a very fortunate person. I mean, I always sort of think of my life much like Forrest Gump, somebody who, I don't know how these things happen. And I got asked, it was strange, I was at a dinner with that a friend here in South Africa had hosted for President Clinton, and who was visiting South Africa. It was a private dinner. And at the dinner were a number of people, and I was sitting at a table with a person. And at the end of the dinner, she said, "You know, I just thought I should tell you that you remind me so much of Denzel Washington." And I thought, "Oh, God, how can this be?" And I didn't want to say what I wanted to say, but subsequently I got a call out of the clear blue saying, "We're producing this film, and someone has given us your name and wondered if you would be willing to be an extra." I said, "Well, what is it?" And they said, "Well, it's I can't tell you the details, but we're looking for someone who's about 5'10" and heavy set and fair complected." I said, "Well, Central Casting has got it all wrong. I'm 6'2", I'm skinny, and I'm dark." And they said, "Well, can you come in and let us take a picture of you?" I said, "Yeah, but it's not going to change. It was still going to." No, come in." So we did, and I went in and took the picture. A couple of days after that, I get a call and said, "No, the director has looked at you, likes your picture, and wants to know if you'd be in the movie." At this stage, I now find out the movie's going to be Ali. And when I get out to, it was being filmed in Mozambique, and when I get out there, it was being produced by Michael Mann, who was the director. And he asked me, did I know anything about Ali? And I told him, well, I covered him when I was writing sports, I covered Ali and met him and talked. He said, "Oh, that'll do." He said, "You know anything else?" "I used to box." "Nah, that's great. You'll do fine." So we set up the film, and out comes, I was going to be George Foreman's doctor in the movie. And we do a series of shots of George Foreman in the training room, and then from there into the boxing ring, and it's over. I said, "Well, that's great. Thank you very much. Out of here. Enjoy the rest of your movie." And the woman looked at me as if I was a bit strange, and she says, "But you're in the movie." I said, "I know. That's what we just did. We just filmed that. That was me there." She says, "No, I don't think you understand. You're in the movie." I said, "I know. We just did that." She says, "No. Wherever George Foreman goes for the rest of this movie, you have to go too." I said, "I can't do that. I thought this was a cameo appearance." I said, "I'm running a company. I can't do that." She says, "But we can't take you out of the movie." And so for 6 weeks, I had to fly out to Mozambique. And fortunately, I learned something of great interest, which is that the weekend in the movie business is actually Monday and Tuesday. And it was strange how you find that out. It's because that's the only day they can get wardrobes cleaned. If they had Saturdays and Sundays and they had to send things to the cleaners, of course, Saturdays and Sundays, Most cleaners are closed. So Monday and Tuesday is actually their weekend. So they send things to the cleaners on Mondays and Tuesdays. And so Monday and Tuesday I would work in Johannesburg all day Monday and Tuesday, all day Wednesday because we were filming at night. I'd fly out to Mozambique on Wednesday, last flight out, or 5 o'clock flight out to Mozambique. We'd film Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'd fly out Sunday, be in the office on Monday, and would go to the site for 6 weeks. We'd do that until the film was over. But it was a lot of fun.
I'm sure it was. Now, you've had a very varied life, and you continue to have one. And, you've had a vast number of experiences over a vast number of genres, if I can put it that way. What have you taken away from all of that?
What have I taken away? How fortunate I've been, how blessed that I've been to have been able to have had that kind of a life. And you wonder often, I do, about how so many other people who are just as talented as I am, particularly here in this country, have not had those opportunities. And it is about opportunities. It's about giving people a chance. And I often wonder about young people in remote parts of this country who don't have an opportunity and who might well have had as much talent or more than I do, and who will never get an opportunity to experience what life has to offer. And if you think that way, then whatever you can do to try and break down the barriers that keep them from being able to be successful is what you do. So what I've learned is that I've been fortunate, but I also recognize that there are so many people less fortunate than myself, and that you have to give back. You have to make a difference.
Thank you for being our guest today on Upper Echelon. We've been speaking to Millard Arnold, retired Executive Director of Murray & Roberts. Upper Echelon was brought to you by Deloitte. For innovative thinking and thorough strategic planning, turn to Deloitte.